Welcome to your most authoritative morning current affairs show. And on a Friday, we sit and in a journalistic perspective, get to look at the stories that have made headlines during the week. There's just been a lot throughout the week, and coming to the end of the week, it has even gotten a little bit busier. All right, the latest of it all. Let me start off from the Dokolo by-election, of course, which was yesterday. And the returning officer, Mr. Ngovi, did announce that the Uganda People's Congress's Sarah Nyankore did take up this particular day. My producer will be giving me that particular letter of the returning officer, looking at how the different candidates did get to score. But like I said, it was very, very clear for me. I pay attention to the total number of rejected or invalid votes and the spoiled number of votes. And in this case, invalid votes would become the second runner-up in this election, because the total number of invalid and rejected votes is much more than the second runner-up of this particular election. But you could clearly see Aguti Sarah Nyankore did garner 23,040 votes, 44 votes, I beg your pardon, and emerged winner. And NRM candidate did emerge first runner-up, just like it was in the previous election in 2021. That's part of it. What lessons do we take from Dokolo? UPC gets yet another member onto the bench in Parliament. That means their numbers continue to swell. That means also the number from the public, the monies from the Political Parties and Organizations Act will definitely be increasing. But away from that as well, we have issues with regard to, the biggest conversation of the time, and that is the new cabinet. Surprise to some, not a surprise at all to others. Some interesting changes, switches from one docket to another docket. And let's take a look at some of those. Of course, the first stance is totally maintained. That is the first deputy prime minister, second deputy prime minister, the president, the prime minister, okay, not president, because president is the appointing authority. I meant vice president, and the others have all been maintained. Let's look at some of the new entrants that have come through in this particular race. Fiona Nyamtoro, who is also the National Female Youth Member of Parliament, comes into this particular cabinet as new. We have Lilian Aber, who is coming in the docket of disaster preparedness. We have Balam Barugahara Atenyi, who has been appointed as the new State Minister for Youth and Children Affairs under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. We have General Wilson Mbasu Mbadi, who is also coming through. We have Dr. Kenneth Omona, who's been the PPS, now appointed new Minister of State, Office of the Prime Minister. That is Northern Uganda docket. General Wilson Mbasu Mbadi, who has been appointed the new Minister of State for Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. That is moving from the docket of Chief of Defence Forces. We have a totally new Chief of Defence Forces who is as well coming through. Well, those are some of the new entrants who have come through. Who is out? Minister for Karamoja, Mary Goreti Kitutu, is out. The State Minister for Karamoja Affairs, Agnes Nandutu, is out also from the cabinet, and those have been replaced. Most from the, saga, the Iron Sheet saga that did come through. And so many others who are out. We'll be delving deeper into that conversation as well at a later stage. For now, allow me to introduce to you my panel this particular morning right here. I'll start from my extreme right, the only sir on the panel, and he has always told me if you don't mention it, there is trouble. Sir Simon Muyanga Lutaya, a member of the Patriotic League of Uganda, but a senior journalist and media trainer. Good morning, Simon Muyanga Lutaya, sir.
Good morning. I'm not telling you to mention, do you feel it? Because you speak like you're under pressure to call me sir, but you don't believe it.
No, it's okay. I'm not under pressure.
Thank you for having me here. I think it will be a great discussion. It's a great, like you say, there's a lot flying in the papers and across all media platforms. Indeed, you have introduced me right. I'm a member of the PLU.
Oh, not PLU.
You call it, whether you call it Pilau or not, it's okay. Even if it was Pilau, it is high-class Pilau, Basmat, not Kaiso, so it's okay. Otherwise, we are here for discussion.
Yeah, not Kaiso, it is Basmati. Anyway, let's move away from there. Charity, I'm Mbisiwe Kalebo. It's a pleasure having you. And good morning, please.
A very good morning. Mildred, looking bright in black. And I tell you, somebody sent me a message. Tell Mildred I love her.
Oh, thank you.
But
My love back.
Unfortunately, it's a man. It's not a woman.
My love back. It doesn't matter. Love is love.
That's simple. That's simple.
This is gone. Your husband, I pity him.
Love
Very
is love.
good morning to everyone that is watching us. Most certainly happy to be here and happy to meet my colleagues in the studio, especially the one from where is it? PLU.
PLU.
Wow.
PLU, yes.
I will know at the end of today.
slow.
Whether it's Pirao or
And well, Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, senior journalist as well with us and a media trainer. I know that he started a lot of training. I don't know whether he's planning on exiting the media very soon once you start. But it's always good to train because you want people.
He is.
When I'm here,
I am your veteran, he's senior. Yes, let's keep it at that. Kenneth, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Mildred and viewers of NBS. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you too. We'll also be joined by Nelson Bwire, who is running a little bit late at a much later stage. But of course, starting off with the latest, as we went to bed with totally different news that did come through. And we'll start off from the cabinet reshuffle because it's the latest news of the week. And Nelson Bwire in just a bit will be joining us as well. Kenneth, I want to start with you. Any surprises? Did you expect what we did have in the cabinet reshuffle that was released late last night by the president?
Well, to be honest, I was not surprised because when you run through the list, you see almost most people have been retained to their original positions where they were. But also scanning through, you still see still that huge cabinet. I would be so surprised or happy if there was a paradigm shift and if the number of ministers was slashed.
If there was rationalization.
If there was rationalization in the cabinet, just the way it is happening with the agencies. And then the numbers are trimmed. Then if some of those historicals, people have been in the cabinet for as long as I've known NRM, were also moved here and there, I would be surprised. So I do not see any infusion of new energy. As far as I'm concerned, I'm seeing people.
We have new people who have come in for the very first time.
Well, you're seeing people are coming for the very first time. But the question is, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? How much does this cabinet really matter to Ugandans in terms of delivering the services that Ugandans are looking at? So I still see the same group. Some of them have actually been lamenting when they visit your studio and on air they say something different, but then off air they are lamenting and saying different things. So when you look at the entire list, you just sit down and say it's a free sale. Same people, same things, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I don't see them coming. So I don't see anything new apart from those who are jubilating because their friends, their relatives have got into cabinet. That's the only thing that I can say initially at this stage.
All right, thank you very much. Sir Simon Myangaltaya, before you get to speak, we've been joined by Nelson Bwire as well. Very good morning to you, Nelson. It's a pleasure having you.
Morning, Mildred. Morning, Simon, Charity, and Anderson.
Looks like you had a late night.
Yes.
Yeah, because of what is happening. But I'll be getting back to you at a later stage. Sir Simon, to you, jubilations, I guess, from your side. But what do you think about the new cabinet? The new members, it's not been an entire shake-up, but it was literally a small shift in some of the areas.
Thank you. First, it is African to wish every man, woman who achieves anything good. So I want to congratulate our friends, the new ones who have just joined cabinet, Lilian Abe, Dr. Baram Barugahara, and the others. We congratulate them. It's an opportunity for them to serve
Sir Simon, you only remember 2 names of the new
I'm
persons.
talking about the new persons.
Yes.
Those close to me.
Okay.
Those close to me. The others, even if I sent them.
You see, I
messages,
told
they
you that's
wouldn't
what
feel.
matters most.
That is what Anderson said.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I said,
The friends and
friends and relatives
Jubilating.
jubilating.
I'm not jubilating as such, but I want to wish them good because they have an opportunity to serve.
Yeah.
There's a lot more they have been doing to show us that they want to serve, and they have indeed been given an opportunity to serve. This cabinet is strategic only if you have time to think about it deeply. It shows that Mr. Museveni over time is reading the public mind that we are tired of ministers that keep changing all the time. And this time round, he maintained almost 95% of his cabinet, meaning he's giving them an opportunity to serve for a whole term, as opposed to what he's been doing, that within one term, he changes it twice or sometimes 3 times.
Okay.
It's also costly. You keep changing people every other time. One settles into a job and then you move them and then bring another. Every time someone new comes, they first take time to study what they are going to do. So we lose time in terms of service delivery. Number 2, I do not know whether Mr. Moses Sali is still able to serve. I don't know whether his health is still good enough for him to serve. But anyway, the president maybe gets better reports, but it's surprising. I thought he was going to be
Relieved of his duties.
retired
Yeah.
in public interest or even in the interest of his health. And then number 3, we need to worry about Mr. Museveni's parent or heart. I am told of a story that the Indians do not want old people to remain in their shops because they believe that when somebody grows old, they become too generous, so they may end up donating everything from the shops without making any money. I see the same spirit in Mr. Museveni's cabinet, that every time he's making cabinet reshuffles, he's not letting people go. He has to find somewhere to put them. I fear to use the word dump them. This week, the list of presidential advisors has now like 5 additions. It is joined by Lydia Wanyoto, somebody called Kwichwinywi, Vincent
Freedom Grace
Sempija
Kwichwin,
now
yes.
goes there.
Freedom Grace Kwichwin has been serving in the Northern Docket that Kenneth Omona has joined.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That having dropped them as ministers, you'd let them go and live a different life. But because he's a parent, he says, but maybe when I drop them, they'll have no clean survival. You put them somewhere as presidential advisors. I think our law needs to look at the role of presidential advisors. Why are we spending so much on them? To do what? Are you telling me that this president is I don't want to use that word, is not, does not have sufficient capacity to run? He needs a lot of advisors to be handling, because the list of handlers is big, the list of ADs is big, the list of officers supposed to support the president perform is also big. Then the list of presidential advisors is also big, and the cost of it, like Anderson said, our interest as Ugandans now is to hear things that relate to reducing the cost of public expenditure, of public administration.
Okay.
Instead, every other day, new people are coming
coming
in.
in.
The list is just bulging.
All right.
So
I will be coming
in-
back to you on an analysis of the cabinet. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'll be coming back to you on that one. Charity, what do you make of this slightly reshuffled cabinet?
It has been long overdue. People have been seated on tenterhooks. Every time anybody does anything, every time there's a corruption story, they say there's going to be a reshuffle.
The axe is hanging.
And every time some generals said a few things about Simon Muyangam's cabinet, which we now see, then the axe was hanging. So this was long overdue. But like Kenneth says, no big surprises there. I think for me the only surprise is that...
Sorry, Charity, I'm going to interrupt you. I need to have your audio quality switched up a little bit. So Nelson, let me come to you. You had a long night because of this and the kind of work that you do. Were you surprised by any of the changes that did come through? What do you make of the cabinet?
Well, first to answer, I was surprised by the few changes, the slight changes in cabinet. And I was surprised specifically by one person that Muyanga Lutaya mentioned, Balaam Barugahad. So the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, no, wait.
Is it right? Do we need to double check?
And most calls regarding the cabinet reshuffle were specifically asking this specific name. How is it there? Well, Museveni is both surprising and interesting. And unpredictable.
Yeah.
Under no circumstances whatsoever would the few names that came in be expected to be where they were. And I would want to look at it in a very quick way. When you choose when you look at the 3 or 4 names that came in, they are under 3 or 4 traits. One, the president chose those that had been very close to General Muhoozi Kainerugaba.
True.
I don't know in what wisdom he took the angle, and also he chose, they're quite young. They're young people.
Yeah, sure.
Nyamtoro is the youth MP.
Yeah, National Female
Youth MP.
Yeah.
And Lilian Abbey is also
immediate
still,
former,
yes.
the most former youth MP
Yes.
as well, and also served in the youth
and
council.
also, yes. And then we get, Balaam is, I don't know, Balaam is ever young. For some reason. Okay. We don't know if he's old or young, but he has been around for a long time, but he still wants to be around the young people. And we can as well pass him also as a young person, since he's going to be in charge of children and youth.
Yeah.
So he's been listening to a few calls. We want people who are like us, who are quite representative of what we are. Because if you throw Balaam in the middle of the city, he actually fits. He's like
the
most of them.
the young people.
They are hustlers. They are neither here nor there. Today they are in business. Tomorrow they are this way. So Balaam is a very good representation of what the people today are. And I want to believe that he was also put in that place because of his very great mobilization skills. Balaam is a good mobilizer. Do not take that away from him. He's one guy who is mobilizing all the time. I don't know why he always mobilizes for everything, but do not take away that from him. So the first aspect was that. And then that is 2, youth, close to the PLU. So it looks like he sort of wanted to disband it. It's my view now. Sort of a disbandment of the PLU.
By making them busy in cabinet?
Making them busy in cabinet.
Okay.
Yes. Let's keep them busy. Let's keep them busy. And now, the joker, the joker, like the card
joker, not the
that
joker.
came later,
Yeah.
is now he makes their chairman the CDF.
Yeah.
So how will he move around campaigning now? How will he move around to do the tours and everything? So it looks like he wanted to keep them a little busy.
A bit in check.
A bit in check. And he wanted to sort of give them an opportunity to serve, so that maybe we can also put them on the cross and condemn them and say, you guys want to come in government now. Oh, see, you are Minister for Energy, Minister for, what are you doing? So maybe he needs them to test the fire. Yes, he needs us to see them. And also he needs to keep them busy. So those were kind of the things. And then the 4th one was the corruption scandal of Mawati.
Yeah.
You realize the 2 people who are in court. Yes, because many people were asking that if you take out Chitutu and take out Agnes Nandutu, what about the man who actually came and said, I actually used the Mabati for my piggery project. He actually confessed. That means that the president is also very, very keen on the rule of law. These people were all taken through a filter and given to the DPP to make sanctions. The DPP sanctioned only 2 and said the other ones don't have so much to answer. So the ones who are actually in the fire are the 2, and he took them out. So that means that they have a case to answer as far as the Mabati is concerned. Therefore, they left the cabinet. And whenever you make whenever you make a movement of a pawn, there must be something you put there.
We actually had 3 of the ministers in the dock, and one of them is
Amos
actually
Lugolobi
Amos Lugolobi was actually
retains the
also in the
position.
dock.
Amos Lugolobi, for some reason, his case has not moved on.
Okay.
For some reason, his case has not moved on. The 2 people are still in court. Amos has not.
Even Amos is still
Amos
in court.
maybe.
Yes, but
The case has not proceeded
actually,
for a
his
bit.
was even more sticking because the iron sheets were found on his farm.
Yes.
Then
And he
because
confessed.
And he
because
confessed. That is
was-
the confession he was
and he
making.
Because
confessed.
he was found to have them, he rushed and tried to de-roof the structure in a bid to hide the
exactly.
evidence.
But what is happening with Lugolobi is that his case is either taking longer to move, or he must have taken plea.
Or maybe the DPP is about to lose interest.
Oh, the DPP is
probably.
about to lose interest because over time, Nandutu and Chitutu have gone back. And recently, Chitutu's case became complicated because they released all the people around her and they said she has a case to answer. So those must first finish. Nonetheless, Uganda is not ending today, like Museveni
They
says.
could bounce back.
Uganda is not ending today, it's not ending tomorrow. Therefore, even Lugolobi, if they pick him out, he can still get out of cabinet.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Charity, what do you make of this cabinet? First of all, what were your surprises? What did you not get surprised about? Before we get into the deeper analysis of, because when the president was inaugurating this particular cabinet, where there's a seeming reshuffle, a simple reshuffle that has happened, he said, I have gotten fishermen and fisherwomen in this particular cabinet. So what do you think of the new changes?
I got distracted by your microphone. I don't know if I'll have the same course of thought. But let's attempt to get back there. The thing is, the president's reshuffle has both verbal and non-verbal communication. And I want to agree with Nelson, also agree a bit with Kenneth here. One, the non-verbal is that the political analysts have told you from the beginning that the son was not going to be on ballot paper in 2026. And yet PLU assured us he was going to be on the ballot paper. So the non-verbal is clear now. The president has cleared the air. No more these things, TEDAS, say what. He's a chief of defense forces, and therefore in that capacity, he cannot be on that ballot paper. Story closed. The second non-verbal, of course, the verbal one is I, the president of Uganda, under articles, these have the mandate to, that is the verbal one. It was very clear. So the verbal one is the one which is straightforward. The second non-verbal is that as a chief of defense forces, remember the president is supposed to be the commander-in-chief. Yeah. At least that's what the laws envisage. He's giving a chance to his son to be a president of sorts. See how it happens from a wide array, but within the army. He has been head of the land forces. He has been SFC before, and now he has a chance. He has been a special presidential advisor. And of course, when he took that special presidential advisor, there was a bit of controversy with the Kenyan thing, and it looked like he had been sent on Katebe, but it wasn't exactly. Maybe the president was grooming him. And now suddenly here he is, and he has a chance to see a wide array of things. But also, the other non-verbal is that we head to 2026. And there's someone who is firmly in charge of the army to oversee. We have told you from 2021 that that election was militarized. Now, 2026 is going to be super militarized. It is clear. It just doesn't need to have any more elaborations there. So then comes the young people. Yeah, the president is also saying non-verbally that they are taking over. And we've had this narrative, it has been around for a long time, that by the time of 2031, the old guns will be out and to be the young people who will be there. And you can see that strategically, I have a neighbor who is very strategic. He's in the system now because this is the government that is taking over. My neighbor, who is Simon Muyanga, he is very strategic. So right now, if you're really thinking in terms of strategy, in terms of being a Ugandan that must survive the times that are coming, then you might want to take the attitude of my neighbor here. Okay. You might want to ally yourself with the forces that are being now established for governance of this country. Of course, that also non-verbally begins to answer the question of transition. It is a question which has been hanging around. Oh, President Museveni, you've been here for 40 years and you've not showed us, you've not. So it begins to answer bits of the question of transition. How do we transit? Leaders transit by training other leaders, is what we have been saying, is it? And Simon said here that the president has been listening to people telling him that we want young people to take over. Now you have young people. And I think Lillian is qualified. Yeah, young people have been saying we are the biggest percentage of people in Uganda.
And not just saying, that is the demographic.
They've been saying we are 74% of the demographics. And they've been saying we've been left outside of the management field. And they've been saying we want to show them how to manage better. So these voices have been there and they have been heard. And the president is trying to say here now, I have heard you. Let me give you a chance to also serve, to also see what is going on. But lastly, broadly, what I make about the Mabati, I think that it is unfair for my two sisters from the east, Nandutu and Chitutu. I don't know, Chitutu, does she come from the east or where does she?
Yeah, same region.
Very sad that I lose two sisters from the east for no good reason, because they were not the only Mabati thieves. That list had mob guys there, and if the president,
some of the files were
if
not
the president really wanted to,
they were the architects.
But what you see is that
they couldn't have been the architects. There is no proof. There is no proof yet that these two sisters of mine from the east are the architects of the theft.
They were in the docket that superintends over what happened.
It doesn't matter if they superintend. What happened to the account? Yes, of course. Now sisterhood has come in.
Okay. No, let's give Charity just a few minutes to conclude and I'll come. Yes.
These are two women. I'm losing two women. Then they are both from the east.
But you have some more women coming in. Nyamtoro, Aber.
Nyamtoro and Aber are not from the east. I want two from the east.
So is it about east or about?
It's also about the east.
You have Wanyoto, she has become
advisor. No, we want a position. We want a position. And now I situate myself for the east. For the first time, I am saying my...
So you love thieving sisters?
My sisters are not thieves. Prove it. There's no proof from court yet. The allegation.
Maybe the president, Charity, how about look at in the way that the president has put them on hold until...
Yes, let the court finish. If they are free,
then if the president is putting them on hold until the court finishes, then he should have also put Golobi on hold until court finishes. Then I would say, yeah, it's fair enough for my sisters from the east. But now as it looks, my sisters are dumped. And the other guys are going on. But what's wrong with leaving my sisters from the east?
All right, ladies and
today,
gentlemen,
my east, I feel so sad about the east.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a very short commercial break. I want us to come and now analyze, because it's not just about a cabinet. It's about the services. It's about the statements that the president has come through with. Fishermen, fisherwomen. Let's get into that conversation shortly when we do return from the break. A very good morning to you once again. Thank you for keeping it NBS Television. It's the Morning Breeze, your most authoritative morning current affairs show. My name is Mildred Tohaise. You can get us on social media at NBS TV on X, NBS Television on Facebook, NBS and Next Media Services on YouTube. You can as well get me on at Mildred Tohaise. And as well, I know many of you have been asking and saying, where do we give our views? Just go to at NBS TV on X at Mildred Tohaise. I'll be able to read out some of the views and comments coming in in from yourselves. And maybe to just rest Charity's heart a little bit, in the same docket, Karamoja, Honorable Nambozo from Sironko has been...
I just said from Bugisu.
From, okay, East still. You wanted East, right?
Yes, I wanted
And
East.
Honorable Nambozo is in.
Oh,
so-
I missed her name. Oh, that,
yeah, Honorable
that was
Nambozo
a
is
bit.
in. But let's start with you. Kenneth, you seem to literally disagree. I saw you shake your head in disagreement with what Simon especially and some of what Nelson and Charity said. What do you make of this cabinet? Now, if we go into the deeper analysis of these few changes and the retainees that have remained.
Well, the reason I was shaking my head is when my colleagues were hailing Mr. Museveni for bringing the youth on board. And my argument is the youth have always been there. My most important issue with this cabinet, though, is not about who is in that cabinet, because what matters to me most is what can this cabinet actually do for the country. Are
they fishermen enough?
Are they, the fishermen aspect of it implies that they are going to do the bidding of the president, but the aspect of service delivery, even these young people who are being deployed in these ministries, what exactly are they able of doing? Are they going to have the leeway to actually change the lives of people? And one of the person that has been talked about the most is Balaam. Well, we know his hustle and what he has been able to achieve, although I'll also tell you he has been able to achieve most of these things because he has been within the system as a business person feeding directly from the system. His events, businesses and things like that, we know what he has been doing, hiring out to the system, so he has been able to get those advantages.
So it's a true description of his name, Barugahara.
Yeah, he comes from far, like his name says. But the question is, what is he going to do for the youth? Because we have so many young people who are unemployed. We have so many young people who are hustling and with very many brilliant ideas, but these ideas cannot take off because they need capital, they need a hand to take them to the next level. The question is, apart from politicking and probably mobilizing the youth to move and vote for the same government that has failed to address some of the challenges they are facing, what else can Balaam Barugahare do? He's going to get his Porsche car, he's going to get his pay, he's going to get that extra, what will I call, vigor, because he's now a minister, but I don't think he's going to be able to change.
Some suits
I don't think he's going to.
He can't. If he puts
Nelson,
on
you
suits,
can say that again.
he will lose his constituency.
He's going to put on some suits.
More than t-shirts and canvas shoes.
He will have to put on decently in
because
line
you
with
expect him on Monday.
He's
with
always
the
been
parliamentary rules, because he now becomes also a member of the front bench, and he'll have to appear in a suit whether he likes it or not. Maybe he will pick on Africans.
Where does that leave his constituency of the youth?
Decorum,
And then, of course, I would be so excited if I saw young people taking over some of the dockets that are serious.
Like?
But we still have the same people.
Which dockets would you want?
For instance, Simon Mianga pointed out the issue of Moses Ali, who is still on that cabinet when we've been seeing videos around. But one would say strategic reasons because of the West Bank,
yes,
West Bank rebel outfit that
Yeah, you mentioned Moses Ali and also mentioned Musa Echweru. Those are people who have been very consistent. With
yeah, we know, of course, Musa Echweru with his militia in Teso.
Those are former rebels.
So maybe that's the main reason why they're still in that cabinet. But the rest of the people, they are the same people we have been seeing. Mugurusi Kasaija is still there. He has been lamenting about corruption. He's the Minister of Finance, together with the president, but he has been, if you saw his last statement about corruption, he was literally crying. He's in charge of releasing the funds. Yeah?
But he cries because he knows the funds are going to be
his
stolen.
ministry is also in charge of the accounting officers, because the PS, Secretary to Treasury, who superintends over the accounting officers, is there. But he's also still crying about corruption. So I see an entire cabinet list that is not going to deliver anything differently.
Okay.
Then the issue of PLU, of course, for me, from day one, I knew Muhoozi's activity were a distraction, targeting probably the growth of NUP, especially in the central region. but I never had it in mind at any point that he will be on the ballot. And I think,
especially 2026.
and I think he sealed it at the last event in Masaka when he publicly made a statement and urged people to vote for people who are ready to work with President Museveni. And in my mind, people will be voting in 2026. If he wants people, people will be able to work with President Museveni. It means President Museveni will be on the ballot in 2026. Maybe. Lastly, just an icing on the cake. As long as Mr. Museveni is still alive, he's able to move and talk and tell us to stay tuned, he'll still be President of the Republic of Uganda.
Nelson, fishermen, fisherwomen just rubber stamped again in terms of service delivery, because anyone should be thinking, are we able to get the fair share of representation?
Let me first clarify on Balaam's case. You see,
You like Balaam?
no,
Yeah, very much. You know?
Because he was surprised.
Yeah,
He told
I
you.
I
He was
told
surprised
you.
on the calls that came
and the
through.
biggest number of calls, and even this
Even
morning,
on
the
social
number of
media,
texts
he's
are
trending.
coming
He's
through
trending,
Balaam. How is Balaam?
He's trending.
So
Yeah, why do you think those calls
And
are
some
coming?
of
I'm,
the
so, I'm,
social
sorry,
media
I'm sorry for
comments-
taking-
Why did you think?
Why-
He's
why do
asking,
you
why
think-
did you think?
why
I'll
do
give him.
people are so
I'll give him
surprised
the
about
leeway to
Balaam?
ask.
Is,
Yeah.
is it that he
You
is
see-
qualified or he is not
No,
qualified? What do you
Balaam,
think?
first of all, like you said, true to his name, he comes from far. Balaam has actually suffered for two regimes. He has suffered for MK and suffered for President Museveni. You remember when he was taunted in Canada and people are calling him useful idiot? He has been the flag bearer for useful idiot tag.
Yeah.
Everybody, whenever they are talking about useful idiot, the first person they look at is Balaam. So many people did not, for instance, expect that he would actually get closer to the table, because they were looking at him as people who are abawuji b'obunyama. He's just a swinger, He's a swinger. But now, the man actually, people are surprised that the little work he has been doing, he's actually appreciated. And now, the best aspect of this docket Balaam has been given. Look at the artists. How many artists do you know that are above the youth age? There are just 3 that are, the serious ones are 3 that are above the youth bracket. That's Bobby Wine, Bebe Cool, and Chameleon. The rest of the talent, the younger talent, the artists who are upcoming, the ones that are there, that are booming, are young people. That means they fall under Balaam's docket. So when Balaam comes in as the youth minister and is in gender, which gender is also in charge of the artists,
Yeah.
yes, that means he's being placed in the right place.
The question is to do what?
So, first of
To
all,
do
I've
what,
told you,
Nelson?
Balaam is good with artists. Therefore, that is the first thing.
To do what with
he's
the
going to
artists?
get the talent and recruit the
Mobilization,
talent.
like
and
you
he
said.
mobilizes the talent because he's now in charge of them.
You see where I
So,
disagree with Nelson.
now,
eh? Probably we
yes.
are looking at it at the different angles. I'm looking at somebody being a minister facilitated by taxpayers' money,
Yes.
being able to deliver something that will change the lives of people where he has been placed.
Because Anderson, the first thing,
From the angle you're bringing it, he's more of somebody who is going to infiltrate and make political gains for the person who appointed him. Unless that's the argument you're making. I'm asking, what can Balaam do to change the lives of the youth?
the minister cannot change the life of the youth. Under normal circumstances, the ministers actually are doing slightly the work that they are supposed to, because the real movers of things are the PSAs and the directorates of these ministries. They are the ones who move these are the faces that we are seeing. So what can Balaam do? What Balaam does, and he has been doing, and what he is known for, is mobilization. He is going to mobilize because he now has a docket, and he has a docket that is powerful. He has been mobilizing
and that will be
as nothing.
supported by taxpayers' money.
For me, it would add value if you would say that Balaam is going to mobilize the youth to go into agriculture, to go into investment.
I've already said he's going to first
What is he
mobilize.
going to
He's
mobilize
going to
for?
first mobilize his docket, the artists, the talent, and the what. He'll bring them closer.
For
And that's
whatever
what we've been
reason,
suffering
for
from.
whatever reason, Nelson insists and does not take away the mobilization skill of
doesn't.
Balaam.
That's what we've been suffering from. The artists have been going the other way. You have heard them complaining.
Going where?
Finally.
They have
he
been
has got it out.
complaining. The artists have been complaining. The Minister of Gender is there. We've been taking them papers. Balaam has come. And Balaam wants the artists.
sway the
wants the
artists
youth.
to the
He's
other
going to
side.
first sway those ones on the other side.
Two sway them to?
Where do you expect him to sway them to?
So
To
there's going to be more politicking for the youth.
Thank you. I
As a
love the
minister-
honesty with which you
As
are.
a minister, you people
Yeah.
expect Balaam to campaign for who now?
Yeah, it's the president, the
It's the
appointing
president.
authority. Yeah.
That's clearly what it is. But you people, what the other thing we needed to look into
Yeah.
is the fact that when the president made the changes, he also went further and changed the principal,
The PPS.
the
Yeah.
PPS.
The entire, the
entire-
deputy
his
and
office,
the principal.
The deputy. Yeah. And interestingly, he made the PPS in charge of North. And being in charge of North, Dr. Kenneth Omona was in Parliament before, and he was representing his constituents in the North. And I believe he's also...
Actually, it's from the east. Dr. Kenneth
Like the president has said,
Is he? No,
Dr.
he's
Mona
from
is
the north.
confusing.
No.
He's
Really?
both Eastern, Kumam, and what?
He's
He's
really
a number
from
of
the
things.
east. Surprised.
Yes? He's a number
thought
of
he's
things.
from the
He
north.
speaks,
No.
actually, Dr. Kenneth Mona speaks over a number of languages. He speaks the Ateso, he speaks, he speaks the northern language.
He's an
the
astute
Luo.
politician.
He's a
That I'll
yes,
say.
he's a very good politician, and he has had a very good run as the PPS. Yes, and we can imagine that we have been in the north now, campaigning for the different things that you come up with. Later on, I saw it on the program. And despite the fact that President Museveni captured the north before, the previous elections have been slipping away. They've been going away. We've lost a number of them as the NRM. The NRM has lost a few elections that have happened in the north and that entire region, because the UPC is gaining
Ground.
the ground. And therefore,
But one would say UPC is in cooperation
Yes.
with the NRM.
Oh, yeah, but you know, whenever you are in a corporation with somebody and you give them a... If I put you in my shop and then you become extremely rich, you can set up a branch elsewhere and disappear. So, Dr. Kenneth Omona comes in a point that Museveni is sending somebody from his office now. Yes? The person, and the last rally we were at, he asked Omona to speak to them in the language they understood. That means that it was a sign that actually I want to send you somebody from my office now who will understand your issues better and maybe help you now.
Okay.
And then it is a good...
Thank you very much. And I must say, as a journalist as well, I am happy to have the politician in Dr. Kenneth Omona back to the political docket. Maybe another one if the president would. I would also like to have the politician in, I think, not Tango Doi, I beg your pardon, the Secretary General of NRM, Todwong.
Richard
Yes, the politician in Todwong as well. I would actually, at some point in time, want to have him back on the floor of,
The cool-headed
Parliament. The
politician.
cool-headed politician in Richard Todwong, the Right Honourable
Cool-headed but
Secretary General.
assertive.
Very assertive and also very strong mobilization skill. I think for the time I covered the political sphere, that those two were actually in direct politics, I missed them on the floor of Parliament. Let me come back to
Just
you,
for
Sir
the
Simon,
record,
to wind
Dr.
up.
Kenneth Omona was MP for Kabera Maido.
Kabera Maido,
County.
yeah,
Kabera Maido.
Kabera Maido. In a nutshell, services, or it's just another political stint to talk about?
Thank you,
this?
Tuhais. I want to, first of all, comment briefly about two things. One, about Balaam Barugahara. There is one thing that I think Ugandans don't know or underlook about Barugahara. First, Balaam holds a Bachelor's of Arts in...
But also, ladies and gentlemen, lest we forget, we have a new CDF.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has a bachelor's degree in commerce from Makerere University and an MBA. Outside what people know, Balaam is a good businessman.
He is.
A very professional and organized one.
I can attest to that of his businesses in Masindi.
Yes, I had an opportunity to work with him for 1 year. Balaam is organized. He's also very rich, with very many business enterprises in Uganda and even outside this country, in South Sudan and others. So Balaam would be the right person to tell youth how to work, or how to work your way to the top.
To the top.
He has some knowledge about mobilizing the youth not only for politics, but also for economics, to work, to earn. So he comes in not to simply do the politicking, but also to put his professionalism, his knowledge to test. Can it be transited from him to them to change their lives? And the other one that I heard you people talk about is, what can Balaam do to change the lives of the youth? These politicians, appointed ministers, are simply political heads with two key functions: political mobilization and political supervision. The technical implementation of whatever program that can change the lives of anybody now relies on, first of all, how much resources are available for a particular sector of our population. Even if Balaam or anybody, any professor better than Balaam was Minister of Youth and there was no money in the ministry, they wouldn't do anything. But even if there was no minister in that document, but there was resources, the lives of the youth would be improved. Therefore, Balaam does well the duty of political supervision. He can't supervise this ministry. I mean, who was the last minister in charge of the same? Is it Nachiwala Chiyenje?
Nachiwala Chiyenje, yes.
Right, so the difference between Nachiwala Chiyenje and Balaam Barugahara is not so big. If Nachiwala Chiyenje mobilized, then Balaam can do even better.
Actually, the outgoing minister is Sarah Mateke.
Yes.
Who has been moved to defense.
You understand? So, I believe that the public should have trust that Balaam Barugahara can do something. He's not actually the cheap man you see around. He has only chosen to brand himself like that. But if you sit to work with him and you're discussing business, development, investment, Balaam understands. True is also a kind man. Balaam minds so much about the welfare of his people. Go and ask anybody who works in his companies. They live a good life. And he minds. He even follows up to know how you're living. He even sees you say, but what are you doing? Other than working here, what are you doing with the resources you get here? So, he has only branded himself like that because he wanted to make businesses. He's the man organizing all these state events. And in doing that, he's not only helping government to do these events, he's actually making money. That's what people forget. Balaam gets a lot of money to organize these events for the way you see them. So he's not mobilizing here and there, but
we've been told he's also not extravagant. He's frugal.
He's very careful the way he spends.
That's why he's on a
He's down to earth. Number two, about Amos Rugorobi. You know, one good thing about President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is his patience and parental spirit. Museveni gives a second chance, unlike others. We have many political heads you have seen here that for just one simple mistake, the whole world will come up to maul you and eat you out. Mr. Museveni has that rare sense, I don't know who taught him that, but rare sense of tolerance that he would not kill you instantly, but give you your own rope to first live for some days before you can hang yourself. I think under that spirit, Amos Rugorobi, save for taking the iron sheets and roofing his piggery style, is a good economist. And one of the, I don't fear to say...
And before his appointment to minister, he was chairperson of the budget committee for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't fear to say one of the best we have. I always refer to this argument I've had with the two good economists, Amos Rugorobi and then Dr. Joseph Muvawala. This argument still comes to my mind and say, I wish Parliament would one day sit and debate it to choose which of the two economists has direction for our country. Amos Rugorobi says, let us look for markets and then mobilize production. Dr. Joseph Muvawala says, no, let us produce and the markets will come around. These two lines explain to you what would inform policy under the parish development model or under any economic mobilization policies we have in the country. What should we do? Do we invest resources in first promoting production, or do we invest resources in promoting or looking for markets?
Okay.
To me, I would think in Buganda, here where I have lived for some good time, markets first. When there is market, you don't even need to tell people to produce. They will know where and they will mobilize themselves to do so.
Okay.
So, because of this, I wouldn't condemn Amos Rugolobi to the political dustbin and lose all the economics in him, all the competencies in him, because he made one mistake about the iron sheets. Honestly, in the forgiving spirit of Yoweri Museveni, Amos Rugolobi needed to remain. Kitutu is equally good, but again, her involvement in this is grave. Because these were the architects of it. These were Karamoja iron sheets. And these were the ministers. It would be different if other ministers took the iron sheets and the minister said, for us, they asked for the iron sheets to do a different thing, and they diverted. But the diversion started from the very supervisors, superintendents of
the ministry itself.
It becomes hard to explain.
Thank you very much. Charity, before we take a break.
Like Museveni gives a second chance, I would request him to give Agnes Nandutu a second chance.
In just 30 seconds before Charity winds
but why not Kitutu as well? Also Kitutu, because you listen, I now want to defend
by Kitutu's age and what she has done.
This
should be going out.
Kitutu even came out and said
she was sorry.
She was misguided.
By who?
But she's apologized as well.
Yes, and she apologized. She was misguided and she apologized. But let me not only pursue that line, because then I will lose out on key things that I see that are distracting us in terms of governance. Kenneth raises fundamental questions, and I had him clear in my ear. He says, what is the role of a minister? And Simon seems to say, their major role is a political role. We lose the tide of the Constitution. They have a constitutional role to drive development. They have a constitutional mandate to serve under the executive to make sure that your national development plan is achieved, to make sure that the plans of the president are achieved in terms of governance. Now, let nobody fool you that you just need to be a good mobilizer, you just need to be a good businessman, you just need to be, I am a good journalist, I am a good governance expert.
Charity, you
just
political supervision and political mobilization.
Simon, I listen to you, I want you to listen to me. And I am saying that in terms of governance, it is important who you choose to serve on a cabinet. And when you choose those people to serve on a cabinet, you have an agenda. The NRM came to government with a 10-point program. They have since changed that program into so many programs, but we have a national development plan. And what is our national development plan? You now have what you call parish development model. And the president has been telling his MPs and ministers to make sure they achieve on this parish development model. It is a model that is supposed to sit into the national development plan. So when he asks the question, what new things are these ministers bringing on board? I expected that, yes, these ones have qualifications. Like I have seen, Lilian Abba has qualification. She made sure she worked around her qualification. She worked around her politics. And you've talked about Dr. Kenneth Omona. You can also see he has worked around his qualifications, he has worked around systems, he has worked around management of those systems, he has been behind the president, learning from him very many tactful ways of managing processes. That is what we need for cabinet. For cabinet, you need a statuteness. For cabinet, you need to synchronize what does a government. People are dying of poverty. And on a continuous basis, UBOS is bringing out statistics. Who is poor? The women are a face of poverty. Children are a face of poverty. The youth are a face of poverty. You have a minister, yes, who is coming up very good with business. What agenda is what Kenneth is asking? Now, I expect the other side to say, okay, yes, he's a good businessman. This is his agenda. Then there it sounds very good. You're sitting into the president's dream.
How do we know his agenda before he became a minister? He has come, he was appointed yesterday.
Yeah, so now that he has been, so the question we ask,
and in terms of governance.
What is the agenda?
Yes, that as a minister, you come with a mandate from the Constitution, and that mandate requires that you're driving the development of this country across the board for everybody, for the good of the country.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Nelson, 30 seconds. You wanted to revert to what?
I wanted to handle. There's a document the president released about a few months ago when we were moving the fuel from Nairobi, Kenya, to Tanzania. And in that document, the president also highlights Chitutu's other crime. And the other crime Chitutu committed is that the president had put her in charge of giving him feedback after she looks at the situation why we are buying fuel more expensively. And in that document, the president said, I gave Chitutu this role and she did not report it back. Therefore, when I read that, compared to the Mabati, I said, Chitutu is not
done.
back.
Okay.
There's a viewer who sent a direct message to
So by
Simon Lutaya, and he's asking me actually to share with you. He says, Balaam did what he did and he's now a minister. Lutaya is doing what Balaam did for Muhozi. Hopefully, Balaam is watching and will do for Lutaya.
It was meant to be his. I could reprimand you for that. But anyway, let's take a very short commercial break and return with a lot more. Welcome back, and thank you so much for keeping it NBS Television. It's the Morning Breeze, your most authoritative morning current affairs show. My name is Mildred Tuhaise, and still with my panelists, I do have Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, Charity Ahimsiwe Kalebo. I do have Sir Simon Muyanga Lutaya and Nelson Wire, also known as Kapo. That is the name that we are used to as much. But moving away from the new cabinet reshuffle, another intriguing or interesting conversation or twist that has come through the parliamentary expenditure and parliamentary appropriation conversation, or what many have called the parliament exhibition. Yesterday, the leader of opposition addressed the press and was castigating the institution that he works for having given him extra money than he had requested. And he says he took it back. But in a letter that is alleged, let's keep it at that because it is in a letter, and my producer will be able to show it, which is alleged to have been written by the leader of opposition. It clearly indicated that he was going, which he wrote on 31st, indicated that he was going from the 1st to the 5th. Who is fooling who in this particular case? As we continue deep-rootedly to talk about how money, taxpayers' money, is spent in the August House. Let me start with you, Kenneth. What do you make of these allegations?
Very quickly, even before I get deep into that letter of Honorable Joel Senyonyi, let me begin by saying I was taken aback when I saw Dr. Spire actually crying out that his life was in danger. And I think it's unfair for people out there who are being questioned to actually be targeting people who are fighting for the public, because what we are looking at is taxpayers' money being misused instead of actually helping the taxpayer to benefit from their sweat. And therefore, on my side, I strongly condemn any attempts to silence those who are using these mechanisms. That aside, the state should actually be supporting citizens to actually come out in line with the call that was made by the IGG, the Honorable Betty Kamya, that members of the public need to be part and parcel of the bigger fight to eliminate corruption in Uganda. So therefore, I would urge the state to actually protect Dr. Spire and the team that is behind the parliamentary exhibition, and the rest of us also who are raising voices about these issues. That said, I was also taken aback by development in the leader of opposition's office. First of all, I saw him actually addressing the press and saying that, and creating an impression that they had sent him money more than what he actually deserved. And therefore, because of that, he chose to take it back. He was suggesting that he went to Nairobi for only one day, and he was being given extra money
for 5 days.
For 5 days, beyond what actually he required. And for me, that is deception. Maybe what he would have told us is that he had requested to go to Nairobi for 5 days, but maybe something happened. He ended up spending there only 1 day. And because he didn't want to spend taxpayers' money, he suddenly brought it back and said, I've not spent more than, I've not spent the 5 days in Nairobi. Here is the balance of the money that you had given to me. So he has created an impression where he's also being doubted. I wonder if the Council of Elders at NUP, he's going to sit and also question him and also tell him maybe the thing that he did very fast was to refund the money. I don't know if they are also going to ask him to resign because...
But he refunded the money.
He refunded the money, but you see the conditions they gave to Mpuga was refund the money, resign, make a public apology. I don't know if they are going to ask him to do that, but it was very funny, you know. The Honorable Joel Senyonyi that I know, to actually come out and say, create that impression that he was given much more than he was supposed to be given for a single day. Okay. So I think he has placed himself in a state of quagmire, and he's the talk of social media.
All right, thank you very much. Charity, in the spirit of accountability, because this is something that you've always talked about, are we moving in the right direction now, starting with the LOP?
The leader of opposition is certainly playing politics, which is not, it shouldn't be put far from a person of his stature, but it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate because he's taking the public for a ride. Parliament is in the spotlight, and not for very good reasons. But we want to be able to assess Parliament from a very, very objective point of view, and not just from a sentimental point of view. So I want to concur with Kenneth and agree that actually if he asked for 5 days, Parliament was only
honoring his request.
Yeah, frugal to give him 5 days, because if they hadn't given him the 5 days, then it was going to be, I asked for these days and I was given 1 day. So he asked, and it was honored. The honorable thing to do was to say, I thought I would spend 5 days, but I spent 1 day, and I've decided to return the money. So maybe then he would say, I returned the money because the time I anticipated I would be there was not there. But for him to say, they just sent the money, they ended up giving me 5 days for the 1 day I had requested, and then there's a letter to the effect. Now we need to know, is this letter being adulterated? Is it his original letter? Joel needs to come out and clarify on a number of things, or else the trust in him, and you see, this is the thing I said to NUP before they took away Honorable Mpuga. I said Mpuga was a statute politician. He'd been around for some time, and he knew how to glide the waters. If anybody can play back my clips, I actually asked NUP to carefully think about not just replacing him as a leader of opposition. At the time, they said he was going to be replaced. But of course, then comes the service grant that was given to him, and it was person to holder. That changed my perspective of him drastically. I was very disappointed. I actually knew, yes, he's a politician, I knew, but I could not at any one time believe he would have done person to holder. Given his lawyer.
Him or trust Son of Man, you read the Bible.
You know the Bible, I do read it, but sometimes you want to give it to somebody. You want to trust somebody until when that trust wades away. But we all make mistakes. And maybe it's something he didn't see was going to come after him.
Okay.
So for Joel, in this instance of accountability, he needs to be clear. He needs to come out and tell us the honest truth and not play politics.
All right, thank you very much. Sir Simon Muyanga, what do you make of this accountability?
I have made here before, I've made statements that did not please many people, and I keep making them, that up here, and I will state it again, up here, there is no opposition. I want to repeat. Up here, the big people you know, there is no opposition. Uganda's opposition is down in the low class people. But even what they are opposed to is not what the people up here are opposed to. The people down here are opposed to the bad situation, bad living conditions of no drugs, poor roads, expensive cost of education. The people up here are opposed to the continued stay of one man who they think is occupying their positions and therefore preventing them from accessing resources that they would abuse if they got an opportunity. So I've told Ugandans that it is everyone for himself and God for us all. Nobody should tell you whatsoever that they are for you. Take it or leave it. I had respect for the Uganda Parliament exhibition because the first one that Dr. Spire Sentongo did was focused and made a very good call for action. And we saw the president summon the executive director of Kampala, summoned the PSST, and said, we have some 6 billion somewhere. Take it away and fix something on our roads. And it happened. This Parliament exhibition has been different. Started well on accountability, and then degenerated into trivialities, asking about Anita Among's dresses and their costs, Anita Among's children, Anita Among's something. And then I said, this was personal. It is not the accountability one we see. And when it took that direction, I knew that we are headed for the dirty waters.
I think you are not being fair. That exhibition did not focus on Anita Among's children.
Can I have?
I didn't see it there.
Can I? But I did not speak when you were debating.
No,
just
the dresses, yes.
The dresses, yes. The children, not. Let's be clear.
Okay. When you say the dresses, you are talking about Anita Among's personality.
Yeah.
His personal stuff. This is what you're talking about. If you have not seen on social media, people have talked about Anita Among's children.
You see, Anita Among's dresses is all about taxpayers' money because we...
Can I make my
submission
you make?
But maybe let's
under the budget of Parliament,
my
they dress the speaker.
Can I make my submission?
Yes, you can.
Fine. So, when I saw the direction of personal attacks that this exhibition was taking, then I knew we are headed for dirty. What we are doing now is you say, I am corrupt. You also see what you are doing. Didn't you also do the other? Because my first question will be, who is leaking this sensitive information in Parliament's possession to the public? Whether information about the Speaker, or about Joel Senyonyi, or about Mathias Impuga, that is the big question to ask. The etiquette around it. Who is that person within Parliament who is making this information readily available for the public to use or misuse? That's question number one. Question number two, what if Senyonyi wrote asking for permission to travel, go visit a friend,
member of Parliament,
and ask for the money he asked, whatever number of the days, it was on 1st of February. Today is the 22nd of March. I would also want to look at his document, writing back to say two things. Informing the Speaker that indeed I went to Nairobi and visited our friend. He's doing well or not doing well. But I also realized that I'd been given an allowance one day too many. It should be in the document. I have therefore asked the clerk to explain why I got more money, or I have refunded the money. In a document, and that document should have come out, should be dated between 5th of February to around the 10th, if I'm, maybe somebody had a jet lag.
He had the receipt. He had the receipt that
you understand?
That he obtained after returning the money.
So, returning the money, I'm talking about that report indicating that he had realized that he had gotten more money than
What if he didn't write the
requested
report
for.
but returned the money within the same specific period that you're
Within
talking
the
about?
same specific period,
This is what against
but he
the-
had,
also
this is
got
what
a
against
receipt.
ours. But he had not said it until the Uganda Parliament exhibition went that. So, for me, the way I look at it, I'm asking myself, a member of parliament earns roughly 30 to 50 million.
50 million, actually.
And I know it is their entitlement to get these allowances. But if they are really for Uganda, like they claim to be, you mean a member of parliament cannot travel to Nairobi to check on a colleague without asking for official money? Nope. Accesses 5.8 billion shillings from government every year, from the Electoral Commission, to run a party. You mean from that money, they cannot even spend, the party that Segirinya spoke for, that he fought for, cannot even facilitate their lead of opposition with the 4 million to travel to Nairobi in the first place, and you think these people are for you? Everybody is eating. But their personal attacks, they chose to attack each other. We are yet to see more.
All right, Nelson, we have a few minutes to spend. What do you make of this accountability conversation that is coming through with regard to Parliament?
So I was also on this very show, my very first time with Senyonyi, we were here.
Yeah.
And I remember I told him, he was seated here where I'm seated. I told him that as far as I know, and from where I sit, this one calls it up there, from where I sit, in this Museveni's regime, there is nothing like opposition. And he was so bitter. You remember very well.
Yeah, sure.
I repeat this time. From where I sit, there is no opposition in this country. Opposition is the group of people who have not got access to government money. Now, opposition...
Taxpayers' money. I hate that word, government money. This money belongs to
Taxpayers'
taxpayers.
money.
Yes.
The opposition are those who have not yet gotten bread in their basket. And that's like
It
Simon
is
has
government
said,
money because the taxpayers, you are saying, cannot touch
the
it.
people
They can't even choose how
down
to
here
spend.
who cannot say, you see, I have a per diem here or there, are the ones who say, but we
the
have issues.
Constitution calls it taxpayers.
However, the real opposition we had before was the FDC, because they had stayed for some time and they were trying to maneuver their challenges that come with opposing the government. But now, this new group of people who are really, first of all, most of them came into these positions by surprise. They were shocked to land there. You have been moving around, doing mobile money, and people vote Mamvuli. You come in with 10,000 votes, 50,000 votes. You enter, and then your party is the leader of opposition in parliament. And then they say, from today onwards, you are in charge of Commission A. You're in charge of Commission, you're the LOP. Then what will you do? You're there, everything is new, you have a big car. So when you come closer to resources, it becomes complicated for you from where you're coming from. So, Anup committed the mistake of howling out, of taking out Mpuga over the same matter. I realized the moment they did that, it was going to have a ripple effect. It was going to have a ripple effect. People are going to be like, okay, you took out Mpuga, but do you have any cleanliness in there? Let's go and start touching in and look for it. Mpuga went for very small money, 500 million. But imagine Senyonyi goes for 16 million per diem. Now, the most important part is, I work with State House Uganda. I have a sick colleague outside the country. And then I asked government to fund me for 7 days to go with some of my colleagues who work with State House. And they say, let's go and visit our colleague on taxpayers' money. We sit and say, give me this.
Maybe we're looking at it as Joel Senyonyi. He's the leader of opposition.
That is one.
And in case
Now,
of any
two,
trouble, he is sponsored.
Joel Senyonyi writes that letter. I want to assume it's legit, and indicates that they were going with John Baptist Nambeshe. Now, Joel says he took a day, assessed the situation, and wrote a report of the situation he found Segirinya in. What reason does Nambeshe have to stay there for the 5 days? If this one he went with took 1 day to assess the situation.
Probably as the leader of opposition, he had more duties to do that required him to come back, playing
we
devil's
also
advocate.
need Nambeshe to come to the microphone and tell us, you see, for us we stayed here to look after Segrinya because of A, B, C, D, E. While what we did not do, what Senyonyi did not do, we were able to do in the next 5 days because Senyonyi did everything. So what my biggest issue here is that Senyonyi claims he did everything in a day. And they asked for 5 days. He went with colleagues. Where are these people? Did they also go for 1 day? If they went for more than 1 day and they stayed there for 5 days, why are we spending 5 days for people to see the same person?
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. It's a very interesting conversation. It's just come up, and of course, the leader of opposition himself is the one who released this, and we'll be waiting for a report. And for those probably who are asking for all this information, which report did he write? I want to believe he's a very proactive leader, and he will be, as Joel Senyonyi, the leader of opposition, not in the Nakawa West, yes, member of parliament, will be able to respond. Now, as we get to wind up the conversation, of course, Uganda People's Congress has yet another seat slot added to the members of parliament that it does have from the recently concluded women member of parliament Dokolo by-election that did come through. And Charity, I'll start with you because you have done quite a lot of analysis on elections. You will always pay attention to them even when you're not directly still under an organization that works directly with elections. Did you see this coming, and what next then?
I saw it coming because Dokolo is a UPC stronghold. If you remember that even Cecilia Ogwal, the late honorable, had been on a UPC ticket.
Sure.
And of course,
and also served as a Secretary General at some point in time
for
UPC.
Yes. And actually, UPC used that to their advantage. As soon as the election was announced, UPC ran off to the ground and galvanized the ground. So I saw it coming. It was just obvious. They went back to where people believe in them and where the proverbial ghost of the late President Milton Obote still reigns supreme. And so the whole electorate was charged, and I was told from the beginning when I first said, people might give a sympathy vote, I was told you're joking. Not in Dokolo and not in Lango sub-region. And I said, why not? They are also Ugandans and can be subjected to sentiments like the rest of the places. And the person from Lango said, watch this space. Us, we cannot be taken on a ride because of money, because of voter bribery, because of ballot stuffing. No, 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 no. For us, once we've made up our mind and we'll go with the candidate whom we want. But you also have to give it to UPC. The candidate was a strong candidate. I don't know if you paid attention to their debate.
Yeah, and she clearly highlighted, hers was to pay attention to the UPC agenda.
Exactly. Yeah. Her issues were clear. And the welfare of the people of Dokolo. It was clear. And I like the synergy that came in with the UPC. You saw the UPC president, you saw the ones that are outliers like Ochieno also moving in to support the cause. They went to radio stations across the whole of Dokolo. They moved door to door. And they did this from day one when Electoral Commission announced that there's going to be a by-election. Of course, Cecilia Ogwal's daughter also came in with her own campaign strategy. She's also articulate, very intelligent. If you listen to her program, it is a very good program. However, it was going to be very difficult for her to change the tide because this candidate of UPC has been in this election before and is known to the electorate.
She participated, she was second runner-up in the 2021 election.
Exactly. And then also give it up to NRM. Their candidate was also not weak, was a very good candidate. She had very great ideas, but she was never going to win from the start. You could see that she was not going to win anyway. And it was, but she looked like she would give UPC a run for their money because she too is known by the electorate. But this electorate here, and I wish the whole of the Ugandan electorate could be like Dokolo. For the first time, I sat back and I thought, what is it that we could learn from the people of Dokolo apart from the spoiled ballots that you saw. Because the spoiled
because one of the candidates, Anna Gressel Alam, stepped out last minute, and then Election Commission had to put some small posters saying, don't vote for her.
Yes, but you know, those spoiled ballots still speak to the question of voter education, which we always say, and that it will be needed even when you go for 2026. Many NGOs are saying they don't want to participate because of militarization of elections, and that's why I keep asking for more room, less military, more room to allow for voter education. And it is important because it is constitutional, but it also helps the citizens under Article 38 to participate in the governance of their country. Now, the people of Dokolo are happy. They danced all night because their vote counted. Can government always allow citizens to have their votes count? Nelson,
did you, because NRM participated in this, the NRM candidate also came as first runner-up in the 2021 election, which the late Cecilia Ogwal actually took through. What lessons do we pick, and was this a surprise vote or it came as expected?
Now, the first lesson we pick is that people are actually getting fatigued of the sympathy vote. So and so has died. This one has taken over from them, and we will vote them wholeheartedly. NRM has now lost 2 votes, two slots, because the first slot we had was the minister who was gunned down in Chisasi.
Makadogo.
Yes, Makadogo, and then the son failed to sail through. And we committed, NRM committed the same mistake by saying, no, we will not hold another election to pick our flag bearer. Let's just get this one. So the disorganization still followed the NRM to Dokolo, because the candidate who pulled out on the last day. At the rally, the candidate took the most time speaking about why she pulled out and how she was strong and how she was going to make hell on the rally. And
she talked about a tedious nomination process, saying the NRM was trying to block it.
And she said, actually, if they did not take me out, I was going to somersault inside the NRM. This is on the final rally. Imagine, on the final rally, NRM is not clear. Now, we lost the election immediately. The members of the Secretariat took the microphone and told the president, we have tried, and we know we tried, but things failed. That is the election. It's gone. It's on record. So they picked a microphone and said, Mr. President, you know we try. People may not believe it, but we try. Things just fail. You are the person in charge of mobilization of the NRM, and that is your last speech. That means you have lost the election. It's gone. Pop. Now, we had, actually, NRM had 4 candidates in that race. The person who took the NUP flag showed interest in the NRM ticket. She was one of the people interested in the NRM ticket. So when the NRM said, we have closed, we are taking this one, we are not going to go through primaries, she ran quickly and phoned the Lewis Luongoyas at a hotel and said, I am here. You have been looking for a flag bearer, and therefore, here I am. So for them, since they didn't have a flag bearer, they said, done, Eureka, we have our flag bearer. The NUP flag bearer is an NRM candidate. So the entire disorganization of the NRM could not afford them victory. And we have started by talking about the entire reshuffle of cabinet reshuffle. But the biggest reshuffle people have been expecting is at the NRM Secretariat. Why? The NRM is losing elections because of their own disorganization.
Okay.
So that's it.
And any lessons? Of course, now I think the lessons would be on organization of political parties.
Organize yourselves.
Yeah.
Make sure the next time you go to an election, you have a proper agenda. You're not just stepping in iggledy-piggledy, just like we are here, we are there. Oh, we have a candidate. NRM should stop believing that they are not beatable in an election. going to an election every time while you're confident that you can actually win it whatsoever is costing.
All right, Sir Simon, over to you. The
Thank you
lessons
very
being
much.
taken.
In just a few minutes, one, I saw the winner of that election on the day you hosted the debate.
I think I did as well.
I saw the winner. Said this one will win. One unique thing about Dokolo that I admired is that they are not short of leaders
Not at
like
all.
other places.
Yeah.
The women you hosted, the 6 candidates, all had very powerful CVs. They were all I even imagine, how do the people of Dokolo choose from these? Because they were all not good, but excellent. Very good profiles, powerful women, articulate, focused on what they wanted to do. Whichever the winner would have been, Dokolo would get a very good candidate. Number 2, like Charity said, this is a UPC area. And I've admired the leadership qualities of this man called Jimmy Akena of recent. He's not an excitist politician like the ones we have here. He's very organized but calm, very determined, and a field commander. And the field commander who does not play to the gallery, but on the target. The way he conducted the first election, you remember, the first one you covered of what was that constituency called? The one of Makadrogo when you're talking about.
Yam. Yam South.
The way he conducted that one. And then the way he handled this one, you'll see someone who has actually been close to power or who once lived in the house of the president and picked a few lessons. He knows what to do. Some of our friends here go to these elections, leave the target and focus elsewhere, and then they lose it. They were organized, and so they deserved this election. But this election also speaks volumes that the winner has 23,000 votes, and the person following her has 14,000 votes, almost 50% above this other person. I try to say maybe would the opposition have won differently if they combined efforts? Yes. Would NRM have won if they combined efforts with the independents who went to NUP? No. Still the woman would beat them by a very good margin. So, and the people of the North seem to be smarter than us in politics, that they are not excited when an election comes. Not only on Dokolo, not only on Oyam, but you need to look at, to study their elections and the people they bring and the way they conduct their campaigns and how they select their leaders. I think for them, they have an opportunity to sit and debate who should lead them.
Yeah.
Not, and this is my disappointment, that somehow in Uganda, there is a majority tribe I don't want to mention that you think would be thinking better like the people in Dokolo. To the contrary, they are thinking the opposite. The majority tribe, very powerful, much admired, much followed, but the things they do, they have actually started looking for someone in the North to come and mediate their troubles here in Buganda. I congratulate them, because that's where we have gone.
Thank you.
And lastly,
Yeah.
we need to pick
Sir Simon.
a leaf from Akena. That mind about the target. Don't lose focus on the target. I think the other opposition parties actually look at Akena as a mole. They've said it's a mole. They don't actually respect Akena. They does not even participate in their thing. I think Akena knew long ago that there is no opposition here. He does not participate in the activities because he knows that these are comedians playing to the gallery. For him, he's a serious politician.
He has
And
a
I
target.
think if he has enough resources, he can reclaim the North. But I want to thank the people of the North. The Basoga have a saying, nti omubi no wuwo, ebindi tidda kubimalayo. Somebody may be bad, but it's yours. You should always remember them. The people of Dokolo and Oyam have demonstrated that despite all the negativity that we have made and said about Obote, they appreciate that
What he
Obote was
did.
theirs.
Oh, yeah.
And his legacy
Remains.
lives. I don't think the legacy of some other people would live longer than this one has.
Let's go to, finally, Kenneth, you will have the very final one on the Dokolo election.
All right. My take is that I saw an incident which I think was not covered a lot. There was that vehicle which had pre-ticked ballots. And I kept on asking myself,
sure.
how do these people actually get access to these ballots that are guarded as they're being taken to the electoral areas?
Were they
Somebody suddenly has pre-ticked ballots. You saw that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I did see it.
And I keep on asking myself, and to me, I think that is a very big problem as far as the integrity of our elections is concerned. We have seen pre-ticked ballots in the different by-elections that have happened, and something needs to be done about it. But also, the outcomes, well, UPC, I think UPC is trying to regroup, and I think one of the biggest challenges that Honorable Jimmy Akena has to actually spice up the leadership skills that Simon has been talking about is to bring the different factions of UPC back together. And you know, there is no better moment than now when you have that momentum to suddenly stop chest thumping and calling your colleagues and say, now let's talk on how we can even build this party beyond Lango to go to other areas where we used to be influential. UPC was everywhere, like their slogan says, UPC everywhere. They were a revered party in areas in Ankole. In fact, more than Lango, Bushenyi was like the official seat of UPC. UPC was more loved in Bushenyi, where they used to sing Nyamurunga. They used to praise Dr. Milton Obote as Nyamurunga. So I think the potential for UPC to use its old structures that existed in the past is still there, but I think the biggest thing is for Jimmy Akena to bring all the folks on board. Yeah. But then also there's one particular question I was asked by one of my followers who actually told me, so UPC has won, does it matter? What's the difference between UPC and NRM? I think people are yet to understand the relationship between UPC and NRM. Is it about individuals? Is it about individuals, or there is actually a documented agreement which stipulates clearly what should be happening? Because in an alliance arrangement where political parties agree to work together, we'll be seeing a joint candidate in such an election. But we have a situation where UPC is fielding, NRM is fielding, and to me that continues to portray the level of deceit we have in Ugandan politics.
Well, and in an interview with Jimmy Akena, he said we don't have any written record of cooperation like it is probably between the Democratic Party and the National Resistance Movement. And it says a lot. One thing I do remember, the very final day of the election, I asked most of the leaders in the different camps just before I left Dokolo and asked, what's your plan? This is the final day. One particular thing that came out of Jimmy Akena, on the final day of election, he said, we want to organize our vote protection team. That is it. Because the areas that did not have network in that particular election, the areas that were very inaccessible, and it says that is where we want to target our vote. We want to say congratulations to Honorable Nyankori. You take on to Parliament. The people of Dokolo will definitely be waiting to hear from you with regard to service delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to bring this to a close. Thank you very much, Nelson Wire, for sparing your time to be with us. Sir Simon Muyangaltaya, always a pleasure. Charity, I am Mbisiwe Kalebo, thank you so much, and Kenneth Anderson Lukwago. And to our viewer, thank you so much for giving us time. And yes, Charity, I am Mbisiwe Kalebo.
There is a Kalebo.
So let's have that conversation after we take this break. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, and God bless you.